My favorite book that I read in 2024. That heart-pounding, you can't put it down kind of story. It was a tearjerker. It's tearing me up right now. This book, you guys. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited to have you here in my new little cozy reading corner in my home, brought to you by, honestly, Amazon and Christmas and my amazing friends and family. Thank you so much. And this is even from Christmas too. Wow, Christmas came through this year. Go 2024. Speaking of 2024, today I have for you a list of the best books that I read in 2024, my favorites out of a list of 32 books, and I've narrowed it down and broken the books up into categories for you guys. Now I could have gone ahead and just broken them down by genre, but I thought it would be more fun and interesting to see what types of books I gravitated towards based off of the types of stories, moods, and vibes. And so without further ado, let me share with you the categories and then we'll get into the books. So in no particular order, we have classics with beautiful themes and important lessons, magical cozy fantasies, mysteries that made me smile, heart-pounding, unput-downable books, fast page turners, and last but not least, books that reminded me of the goodness of God. So if that sounds like a fun list to you, let's get into it. Okay, so to start this off, we're gonna go with classics with beautiful themes and important lessons. There were a few this year. I love classics right now. I am putting a bunch of them on my list for 2025. And one of the ones that I needed to check off my list for a long time has been The Hobbit. Now, I read The Hobbit as a kid. It was something that I discovered in my grandfather's library. This was a classic with powerful themes and important lessons as we follow Bilbo, a little hobbit who has to go on a brave, harrowing adventure with the old wizard Gandalf and a family of dwarves who are trying to take back their homeland, their mountain of gold, stolen by an evil dragon. Bilbo, he loves his cozy home. He loves life the way that it is. He's not used to traveling outside of his door. And I just really loved that he was challenged in this book to love others, to make sacrifices for others, to serve, and also to learn how to step outside of his door, to face life and grow as a man and a hobbit. He just grows so much, not only in skill, but also wisdom throughout the story. And even though he comes back home to the Shire as a very changed hobbit, I think it's a change for the better, definitely. And the next one in this category is Anne of Green Gables. And Anne is so beautiful. She is the most imaginative, sweet-hearted orphan. She is taken in by Marilla and Matthew, accidentally at first, but then they fall in love with her. She moves to this beautiful countryside, small, close-knit community called Avonlea, and she just steals the hearts of so many people there, but she also learns some really valuable lessons about kind of how to love others, how to control her emotions, how to interact with her emotions. She even has a lot of questions about God and faith. And she makes some lifelong friends, and people are just, they're better after meeting Anne. Everybody in this village kind of grows in their own scope of imagination and looking for the beauty that's to be found everywhere in life, even from our Creator. Anne just has a special way of seeing the world. So this book is kind of just all about her life growing up in this town, going through her own lessons and learning, and changing a lot of hearts along the way as well. The Secret Garden. Okay, this book stole my heart. It's gonna be a reread for me. I just think it's the most powerful story. And it features a main character that has a really dramatic arc. And I just love this beautiful cover that I got. I actually got this on Amazon. It's a Lit Joy crate, I'm not sure, Lit Joy cover edition. It has beautiful illustrations on the inside. Mary finds herself an orphan in the world, needing a home, and so she's sent to Misselthwaite Manor on the Yorkshire moors. And She arrives there in wintertime when everything is dead and brown and kind of looks just the way her soul feels, that kind of icky, just negativity and sadness in her life, and it really presents itself as anger. She's quite mean and rude to a lot of people around her, but it's because no one's truly loved her. And the more that she gets to know people in the village, she forms friendships and slowly discovers a secret garden on the property. As spring comes, the flowers and plants begin to bloom, and Mary's heart begins to heal along with the garden. So many incredible themes of faith in here. It reminded me of the goodness of God. I could have, honestly, any one of these books on this list has elements that remind me of truth and beauty and goodness. And The Secret Garden is just one of the top books that does that for me. So highly recommend this beautiful classic. The next classic on this list, also a stunning edition, is The Wind in the Willows by Kenneth Grahame. This is the most gorgeous edition ever. We follow a character named Mole as he goes out of his home for the first time and meets Ratty, and they become good friends. Also in their little cohort of friends is Badger and the flighty, very selfish Mr. Toad. Beautifully written, all about the different seasons in the English countryside, gorgeous, lush descriptions. You could just really like taste and smell and see all the wonders of the countryside in this book. And it's kind of these four friends through different seasons of their life learning important lessons, especially Mr. Toad. He has a number of addictions in his life, and his friends really challenge him. And it's really a story about true friendship. So absolutely a classic for a reason. Definitely reread worthy for me. Next is Magical Cozy Fantasies. Top of the list has to be Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. What a treasure of a book this is. This is really a gem. And you may have heard about it because it does have a movie done by Studio Ghibli, and that is also beautiful. Highly recommend the movie. The book is similar to the movie, but it does take some big twists and turns that veer very differently from the film. But it's no less wonderful. We follow Sophie, who's kind of this very humble, timid, sweet character who has just spent her whole life kind of just being a giver, a servant, if you will, working in a hat shop with her family members. But she's really kind of taken advantage of, almost doesn't recognize her own talents and abilities. And one day, the Wicked Witch of the Waste comes and turns her into an old woman. And so Sophie actually seeks refuge from the infamous wizard Howl in the town, who lives in a moving castle, a castle that actually walks across the countryside. And everyone's terrified of him, but Sophie seems to be the one who learns about him, understands him. It's just the most beautiful love story, quirky, fun characters, a talking fire, cute little animals and magical objects, and the most fascinating, interesting, cozy fantasy world I think I've ever read. So in the cozy fantasy list, I have A Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking by T. Kingfisher. This is one that I've talked about a couple times on the channel already for good reason. It is so cute and interesting. We have this wildly imaginative world where we follow a little baker. Her name is Mona. She is a wizard, but doesn't count herself as a particularly talented one. Her magical abilities are kind of limited to baking, to helping dough rise in the oven and animating dough. So as the story goes on, she learns that she can animate gingerbread, bring them to life. But she doesn't see this as a skill that's particularly useful to anyone in her kingdom. That is until a dead body shows up in the bakery and Mona is blamed. And so she has to go on this crazy journey of clearing her name and finding the true murderer, making some friends along the way, some lifelong friendships, and she learned some really valuable lessons too. It was so cute and whimsical. It's kind of everything I look for in a cozy fantasy, and I highly recommend. Also loved its humor. Like, love me a book with some humor in it, for sure. Next we have Mysteries That Made Me Smile. So that would have to start with the unexpected Mrs. Pollifax. Okay, this one is by Dorothy Gilman. The only way I knew about this was Chantel from Chantel Reads All Day. This is one of her favorite books and series. And I knew when I heard the description that it was going to be right up my alley, and it totally was. We follow Mrs. Emily Pollifax, a 60-something widow who is wanting more from life than just teas and garden club meetings. Her whole life, secretly, she has wanted to become a CIA agent. And so finally, at this stage in her life, she gets the opportunity. Mrs. Pollifax is funny, she is witty. So many people in the story completely underestimate her because she's an old woman, and she shows them all and kicks their butt in the funniest, most granny-like way possible. What is not to love? This is kind of a thriller adventure that takes Mrs. Pollifax across continents, and it was so good. It was more heartwarming than I thought it was gonna be, and it was also scarier than I thought it was gonna be. Cannot say enough good things. Loved it. Okay, and then this category is a good one too, because mysteries that make me smile, I think of books with just like main characters that are really like humorous, they're quirky, they're unexpected, and then cozy elements. So you're gonna see a lot of cozy mysteries in this category, of which I've read a lot. The next one on this list, I actually gifted my copy, but it is Enchanted Hill by Emily Bain Murphy. This book, you guys, if you haven't read it, like, what are you doing? If you love historical fiction, if you love murder mystery, if you love romance, if you love The Great Gatsby, kind of glittering, fancy balls. This one takes place on the California coast in a beautiful manor called Enchanted Hill. And I have a video that I dedicated just to this book, if you guys want to check it out, where I talk in depth, in detail about it, if you want to know a little bit more. But it follows a girl who has grown up her whole life on kind of an island that's a bit like Alcatraz. It's like a prison on an island. Her dad is like a prison guard there. Has been trying to escape this like terrible thing that happened in her past. So she goes to work as a private investigator, and she's hired to pose as a maid in this beautiful manor home called Enchanted Hill. While she's there working for a client, she runs into a guy that she knew from her past who is operating under a secret identity. So he recognizes her, she recognizes him. No one knows who they truly are except for the two of them, and they have to decide if they're going to like expose the other person or work together to solve a mystery on the estate. It was fascinating. It was one of the most beautiful romances I've read this year, and excellent mystery as well. So again, if you like Great Gatsby, it definitely has those vibes. Pick it up. I can't say enough good things. Next up is Live and Let Chai by Bree Baker. This was a delightful beach read. If you love the ocean, if you love cozy mysteries, this one is set on the East Coast in this little beach town, and the main character owns an iced tea shop. So I believe her name's Evelyn, and a guy who is drinking her iced tea one day, she finds him dead outside of her shop with a glass of her tea beside him. And so of course she has to go on a journey to solve the murder and clear her name because he died from one of her teas, allegedly. And there's a little bit of there's a romance in the story. The town is called Charm in the book. So it was kind of a wish fulfillment book, like palette cleanser between kind of heavier, deeper, thicker books. But it was just charming, just like the name. And I hope if you love cozies and you haven't read it, pick it up. Okay, and then the last one in this category is The 12 Sleighs of Christmas by Jaqueline Frost. And this book is actually written by the same author. She writes under a number of different aliases, different like pen names, I should say, not aliases, but pen names. So yeah, Bree Baker, Julie Ann Lindsay, which I believe is her real name, and then Jaqueline Frost. And so in this one, it just delivered on what I was looking for. I wanted a Christmas cozy mystery, preferably set on a Christmas tree farm. The main character's family runs a Christmas tree farm. I believe her name is Holly in the story. A dead body shows up on the farm. Her dad is a suspect, and so she has to go on an adventure solving this mystery and at the same time trying to get the Christmas tree farm back on its legs because it is suffering, business is down, and so they're trying all of these like creative like Christmas games and like different ways of bringing in customers. It's just like snowy, cozy Christmas cookies and holiday festive celebrations, a little dash of romance. So if those all sound like fun, like pick this one up. You are not going to be disappointed. Now we have the category of heart-pounding, unput-downable books, which brings me to my favorite book that I read in 2024. This one surprised me, you guys, but it probably won't surprise you if you've watched a few of my videos on this channel so far. It is The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. We have a Groundhog's Day style loop. We have a main character caught in a loop. He is witnessing the same murder happen day after day, every night in this English manor in the countryside. He is locked in this place, and to make matters even more interesting, he is waking up in the body of a different guest at this gala that's happening every night. So rather than following a detective who kind of goes around interviewing suspects every day and hearing witnesses' accounts of the murder, of what happened, he's actually waking up as the suspect. So it's really a fun and totally unique way of solving a mystery because you get to see the same day played out from different angles. You get to see it from different perspectives and personalities. All the while, he's actually trying to figure out who he actually is as well. And if he can still access the person that he originally was before he started turning into all these different people. This book was absolutely like the fastest book that I read this past year. I was turning those pages like crazy, and now I'm telling everyone about it because I just loved every bit of this. It is on the darker side. You're gonna have some darker elements in this. So just be forewarned of that. But I think if you're looking for a book that has puzzles and hooks that just grab you and don't let go, it's this book for sure. Also, I read this year The Last Murder at the End of the World by Stuart Turton. That is a book I'm also counting in this category because I read it just as quickly. It was so fascinating, all about kind of this post-apocalyptic community of people who are the last people on Earth, kept safe on this little tranquil island, but surrounding the island is a basically deadly mist that is trying to encroach upon the people, and anyone who touches the mist dies. So it's being held back, kind of sci-fi story. There's lots of technology, science, discoveries, as these people are trying to figure out like, what is this mist? And community is peaceful. For years and years, it's been completely at peace. The members serve each other and are kind and loving until one day a dead body shows up on the island, and our main character, who is very curious, decides she wants to solve this murder and figure out what's really going on. Is this place really as tranquil and peaceful as supposedly the utopia it's supposed to be? So this was totally just that heart-pounding, you can't put it down kind of story. So highly recommend that one. Another Christmas book, you guys. I had such a fun time reading so many just charming Christmas stories. This one is the best of both worlds. It's a romance that meets a murder mystery, kind of an Agatha Christie love letter, I think. If you love Agatha Christie, this book is one that you may enjoy. It is The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year by Ali Carter. So in this one, we are following two writers. They are authors who have accepted an invitation from the Duchess of Death herself. She is a famous author who has invited them to her home in England. And so the woman who invites them to her home, her name's Eleanor Ashley, and she's kind of our Agatha Christie character. But the two main characters, Maggie Chase and Ethan Wyatt, kind of go on this romantic, suspenseful journey to figure out what happens to Eleanor Ashley, because she disappears at her own Christmas party. She goes missing and no one can find her. And so danger lurks around every corner, and Maggie and Ethan begin to grow closer and closer as they are solving Eleanor Ashley's disappearance. So this just had a lot of different buzzwords for me. It is on the spicier side, but good news, it's closed door. I just found the romance to be really sweet. You know, it's kind of a true enemies to lovers because there's some misunderstandings going on between them, but there's this yearning and this hope at the same time, and you get to see the two main characters kind of peel back the onion layers of their hearts to each other as they learn their misunderstandings that they had, and they grow to really love each other for the real them. And it's so fun. I really enjoyed this book. I highly recommend it. And then the last category on this list, books that reminded me of the goodness of God. So I'm going to start with fiction. We have Set the Stars Alight by Amanda Dykes. I will admit, I am newer to kind of dual timeline books. This is a dual timeline story. We have deep themes in this about sacrifice, redemption, and hope. Our main character's name is Lucy. Lucy has her best friend in the entire world, Dash, who's kind of left her for big career moves out in the US, but she lives in England and she misses him every day. She's dealing with grief. She's dealing with trying to uncover this story of a missing ship. And at one point in the story, this tragic thing happens in her life, and Dash kind of comes back into her life, and they kind of go on this journey of like solving the mystery of what happened with this ship and the people on it. So you're going back and forth between Lucy and Dash's timeline and the timeline of this guy in the past who went missing on this ship, presumably dead, but was he actually dead? What was he doing? This book explored absolutely the gospel, kind of cloaked in this almost fantastical story. It was cozy, it was totally worth a read. I fell in love with it and I highly recommend it. A nonfiction book on this list is Life is Hard, God is Good, Let's Dance by Brant Hansen. And what I love about this book is that it's really just like life stories from Brant. He was a DJ for years and years. Now he is a podcast host. He is not a stranger to kind of suffering and pain. He has Asperger's syndrome. He has an eye condition that causes him to have to move his head back and forth like this in order to see clearly. And so he's been teased mercilessly. He's been through bullying, not getting opportunities in his life because of it, and just like struggling over and over again. But he developed through all of that, like this incredible sense of humor. And he never really felt like he fit in at church, always felt like, he was an introvert. He wasn't super like emotionally expressive, wasn't really like raising his hands in worship, or like he just didn't find that he related to God in that way, really. What he learned in life is that he's different for a reason. He's different on purpose. He's a misfit, made that way exactly by God. Like God loves you just the way that you are. This book is challenging. It is hilarious. At times it's convicting, and it just like reminds me of like the joy that's found in Jesus. Like Brant is really good at highlighting like the humor of God and really like the joy that Christians like miss out on sometimes when we think we're relating to God, but actually like it's not all about being like serious and super deep and emotional all the time. It's also about laughing with God and enjoying Him. It's not just glorifying Him, it's also enjoying Him. Brant just finds hope in Jesus in all of these different challenges in his life. So if you need a book that's like an encourager, I think this is the one for you. I'm gonna grab my tea for this one. It's called Tea Time Discipleship by Sally Clarkson. Really what this book is about, it's about relationship. It's about sitting down with your girlfriends or your own children, family members, friends, pulling up a cup of tea and some delicious food and like doing life together and discovering the goodness of God together in relationship. That's really discipleship, right? I think if you are a disciple of Christ, if you love Jesus and you want to share about Him with others, it's not about hitting somebody over the head with the Bible. It's just about becoming friends and enjoying life together, because God is to be found in those moments, over a cup of tea, in the stillness of your home, in a bite of a delicious scone. Like, there's goodness to be found there, to taste and see how wonderful Jesus is, and it can be done in conversation just about the real things of life. And that is what this book is all about. There's even recipes in here, some yummy, delicious desserts, and even like tea recipes. It was so much fun. And if you listen to the audiobook, it's only 3 hours long, and Sally Clarkson's voice is like the most peaceful, serene, delightful sound. Like, it just filled me with joy. So check this out if you need a book that's gonna be soothing, wise, and very practical. And the last 2 books on this list are actually Christmas books. So we have Catching Christmas by Terry Blackstock. So what I love about this book is that, first of all, it was a tearjerker. It totally just stole my heart. We follow a guy in the story named Finn, who is a cab driver, and he's really down on his luck. He's going through a very difficult time, and it's made him into a very bitter person, sort of jaded person, until he picks up Callie, this adorable old lady who is losing her memory slowly, a little bit each day. But she has Finn pick her up and take her on all these various errands that at first he doesn't understand, but soon he realizes are all about helping one person in her life, her granddaughter, Sydney. And she teaches Finn a lot. She is a woman of faith, and she knows that her days are numbered, but she wants to take care of Sydney. She wants to find a good man for Sydney. It had this kind of romantic turn that was really beautiful. It explores grief, but it also explores hope and the goodness of God. And that was totally reflected back to me in the story. I loved it. It made me cry. It was such a deep book, just very beautiful. So I highly recommend. And then the last book on this list is also a Christmas book. I had so much fun reading Christmas books this year. It is called The Best Christmas Pageant Ever by Barbara Robinson. Also was turned into a phenomenal movie by Dallas Jenkins, the creator of the TV show The Chosen. These kids in this close-knit little town, their church puts on a Christmas pageant every year. And the kids who go to church, Sunday school, are very excited about it. But there are these rowdy, really naughty kids in the neighborhood called the Herdmans that nobody likes. And our main character is really hoping that they don't show up to the Christmas pageant auditions. And of course, they do. So we're following these kind of herdman kids. They want to be in the nativity story. And what's really cool is you find out that the Herdmans know nothing about the nativity story. So the main character's mom, who's running the play, basically has to tell the kids all about the story, who the characters are, Mary, Joseph, Jesus. Seeing it through these Herdman kids' eyes brings the nativity story to life in a whole new way. And it turns out that the most jaded, bitter, messed up, disturbed kids on the block end up understanding Jesus' story better than all the church kids in town, right? They connect with the brokenness. They connect with the hope that they need in their own life. And it was a tearjerker. It's tearing me up right now. The movie was so good. Highly, highly recommend. So that was a long list, but that was it. Those were my favorite books that I read in 2024. I hope you guys enjoyed this list. I hope you found ones maybe that piqued your interest, or you're just excited to get a recommendation to check them off your list. And please let me know below in the comments, what was one of your favorite books that you read last year? Do you have any recommendations for me? What were some that just really stole your heart? Maybe are going to be rereads for you in the coming years? Let me know. I would love to check out your comments. I just want to say thank you so much for being here. I know that I'm not really here on YouTube that much. I set out in 2024 to post a video a week, and that didn't happen all the time. I'm only on here occasionally, but really enjoying it when I am, and I hope that you are too. So thanks for sticking with me, and I hope you guys have a great start to 2025. Let's read some great books together and connect again in the next video. I'll see you guys next time. Bye guys.